Hi everyone, I'm Dora and I'm the chemistry manager of IBridge, and today I'll be answering some questions that you might have going into IB, or just for chemistry specifically if you're going to take the course. So personally, what I like most in HL chemistry is that it actually explains why things happen instead of just asking you to memorize facts. I think that it can be really interesting once you start making connections between topics or between other subjects like physics and biology. But what I don't like is that it requires a lot of practice. I think for chemistry specifically, for IB chemistry, understanding the content is not really that big of a challenge, but you have to learn how to answer the questions the way the IB mark scheme expects, and that can feel really overwhelming or discouraging at times because one wrong word can cost you a lot of points. I think the hardest part of IB chemistry is definitely how fast the course moves because every topic builds on the previous one. It's really easy to feel discouraged or demotivated if you fall behind. And for me, what helped me was taking it one day at a time and one topic at a time, instead of stressing about everything that I hadn't done. And I know it's a big cliche, but staying organized and managing my time made a huge difference because it stopped me from feeling like I had to learn the whole syllabus like one night before an exam. If I could go back to day one thing I'd do differently would be organizing my practice much earlier. Because as a student, my technique to study is rereading or rewriting my notes and trying to understand the content. But I realized that for chemistry, the real challenge is just consistently practicing. I would recommend myself to make a clear plan for when to do past paper questions for question banks, from studying from websites, from textbooks, and other resources throughout the year. And there are actually so many great resources available, including iBridge. But if you don't have a plan, they can actually feel really overwhelming instead of helpful. So, a typical week usually involves learning a new topic, taking lots of notes, and doing plenty of practice questions. And some weeks we also have labs or quizzes. And also, one piece of advice I'd really emphasize is asking questions whenever you don't understand something. The IB chemistry course introduces a lot of completely new concepts, so it's completely normal not to understand everything the first time you hear it. So I would say don't be afraid to ask during class or even go to your teacher after class during breaks. And if you stay consistent from week to week, I think the workload is definitely manageable. So don't be scared by everything you hear about HL chemistry because I know there are a lot of rumors. My biggest advice to someone who's just starting this class or IB in general is staying consistent, organized, and making a realistic plan that works for you personally because I know everyone studies differently and everyone has different techniques that they find appropriate for themselves. And I think finding a routine early on that you can stick to, you can stick to, is probably the best way to go. And don't panic if you feel like you're behind. I think almost everyone feels overwhelmed at some point during the IB. And instead of stressing about everything at once, I would recommend you to focus on the next topic, the next assignment, whatever. And just kind of don't stress yourself out because taking it one day at a time will be the best way to kind of motivate yourself again, and making the workload much more manageable. And these are the answers that I gave. I hope you found it helpful and I hope I could be of help. Thank you for listening and see you next time. Bye.